All right, hello and welcome to everybody to part 2 of the 2020 Marquette University Real Estate Strategies Conference. We know your time is valuable and it's a privilege to share part of today with you. Before we get started, I'd like to thank several people and sponsors who helped to make this event possible. Their support is critical to the work that we do at Marquette and the success of our students and our faculty and our alumni. So first, I want to say thank you to our platinum sponsors, Associated Bank, CBRE, and Prologis. Thank you so much. To our gold sponsors, Colliers International, Connor Commercial Real Estate, Mishdan Properties, Mid-America Real Estate Group, North Shore Bank, Phoenix Investors, and Wintrust. Thank you so much to our gold sponsors. And to our silver sponsors, CD Smith Construction, Cobalt Partners, First Weber Realtors, Knightberry Title Group, Mandel Group, Ogden and Company, Pine Tree, Related Midwest, Trammell Crow Company, and Von Briesen and Roper. Thank you all to our silver sponsors, and of course our blue sponsors, Capital Seniors Housing, Sarah's Partners, Four Investment Group, Heitman, Kelman Restoration, Korb and Associates, Marcus and Millichap, Michael Best and Frederick, MLG Capital, Physicians Realty Trust, Spaceco, and WIDA. Thank you so much to all of our blue sponsors. I'd also like to thank our incredible board members for their support today. The work that our board does to support our students, our faculty, and our program is absolutely the backbone of what we do at Marquette University, and we sincerely cannot thank them enough, as well as our legacy, CRE legacy members. These are the men and women who have supported us at a top-tier financial place, and again, make the great work that we do at Marquette to make sure that this real estate program is one of the best in the nation possible. Thank you so much to all of our legacy members. I'd also like to remind everybody to please save the date for part 3 of our strategies conference coming up on November 5th. This is our last installment of the conference series. The topic will be 2020 retrospective survey, top 10 trends of the last decade and the next. We're very excited to feature 3 different things at this session. First, a very brief awards presentation by the Real Estate Alumni Network, Realm, for both our Deal of the Year and our Service to Marquette Real Estate Leadership Award. We will also be releasing the results of our 2020 retrospective survey, which all of you will have a chance to go ahead and take. This is focused on what are the major trends that we've seen in the last 10 years, and what are the major trends of the next 10 that we can start to prepare for strategically. So we're very excited about releasing that survey to all of you, and then to release the results during this session. Then, of course, the session will conclude with our panelists going through and discussing the results of this survey. That our experts come from areas including office, industrial, retail, multifamily, and property technology. And we're very excited for this session. Stay tuned at the very end of today's event for a short video previewing that event and announcing the panelists and the award winners for part 3. Next, it is my privilege to welcome Michelle Panovich, the Center for Real Estate Advisory Board Chair here at Marquette University, to today's session for a few comments. Michelle is a longtime principal, senior partner, and executive vice president with Mid-America Asset Management based in Chicago. An icon in the industry in Chicago, Michelle is widely known as one of the top problem solvers for developers and owners of investment real estate within the region. Michelle has served as the chair of the advisory board since 2019 and has been an incredible supporter of our program. Michelle, welcome, and thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here. First of all, I want to thank everyone who's joined today. We have a record number of attendees, and I wanted to let you all know that we really appreciate the support of all of our sponsors. The financial support that we receive from these events is the primary support for the School of Real Estate. And we perform a lot of services for the students, such as student guidance, community interaction, and student placement efforts. If you're not currently a sponsor of this series. There's still time to reach out to Andy and become a sponsor for the third and the last of this fall series. And then of course, we also have spring events that hopefully will take on something more than virtual, but we really appreciate, and I know the students really appreciate every bit of support that we get. We've been working virtually as a board since spring, and despite these challenges, we've made great strides in our goals for the mentoring of students, 100% placement of graduates, and creating cutting-edge programs. We will soon have the ability to share a really important and progressive change in curriculum that we've all been working on. It'll be targeted for 2022, and it's one of our most exciting efforts, so stay tuned and we'll hopefully be able to share that soon. In the meantime, we are so pleased to present today's very, very timely and thought-provoking panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you for all of your incredible leadership to the Center for Real Estate. Okay, moving on. Next, we are very excited to announce this year's class of the Associates in Commercial Real Estate program. ACRE, which was founded in 2004 at Marquette University by Mark Epley, now has more than 280 graduates. The program's entire goal was to support minority men and women and train them in real estate skills so that they could prepare for careers and entry into our field, which has been vastly underrepresented by from a diversity standpoint for way too long. So today, like I said, I'm honored to be able to welcome this year's class, who we actually just had our very first meeting last night. So congratulations to our students that were selected for this year's class. Chris Canty, Ayana Cooper-Vasquez, Ali Don, Demetrius Foster, Rendell Giles, Jesus Gonzalez, Maritza Gonzalez, Terrence Goodman, Tristan Hickman, Adine Igoni, Eduardo Jamie, Austin Johnson, Natasha Jules, Amir Law, Jeff Ligon, Obi Nubazur, Saranuk, Carrie Phelps, Eduardo Rivera, Ali Rodriguez, Afra Smith, Johnny Tangle, Keith Turner, and Devin Wallace. Congratulations to all of this year's class of the ACRE program. Next, we'll dive into our program. Now, today's conversation is titled Diversity in Real Estate, Success Stories for Company Leaders. And this topic could not be more timely or more important. To be clear, we at Marquette University condemn racism and racial injustice, and we care deeply about creating a more equitable world, especially for our real estate industry. But we have a long way to go and a lot to continue to learn and to do, and we hope that you can join us on that journey with today's discussion. Our moderator for today's panel is Mr. Kevin Newell, President of Royal Capital Group. An MBA from UW-Whitewater and early graduate of the ACRE program, Kevin is now known as one of the best developers in Wisconsin, completing such illustrious projects as the Park 7 Lofts next to the Pfizer Forum in the Bucks Deer District, Seven Oaks, a $35 million multifamily development in Madison, and the upcoming nearly $100 million redevelopment of the former Gimbels and Schuster's department store in Milwaukee in partnership with the Medical College of Wisconsin and the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. Kevin, thanks for being our moderator today, and welcome. Next, on to our panelists. Our first panelist today is Joaquin El Toro, CEO of the Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority. Joaquin, welcome today. Our next panelist is Don Biernacki, Senior Vice President of Construction with Related Midwest in Chicago. Don, welcome. Our third panelist is Sierra Boatwright, Vice President of Real Estate and Inclusion with the Chicago Neighborhood Initiatives, or CNI, out of Chicago. Sierra, welcome to you as well. And last but certainly not least, Lafayette Crump, Commissioner with the Department of City Development with the City of Milwaukee. Please join me in welcoming Kevin Newell and all of our panelists to the program today. And by the way, for timing, we have omitted giving their in detail bios, but you can be rest assured that they are available on our website if you'd like to read more about these incredible panelists. And we look forward to hearing from them today. So Kevin, on to you and welcome.
Thank you. So we started off and we thought we was going to have 50 minutes. Andy ate up all of our front end of our discussion, so we're going to try to make do. But nonetheless, we got an amazing panel, a panel of rock stars, and we're going to try to dive right into it. A little bit of run and show for us. We're going to kick it off with some kickoff questions that will allow everybody to get engaged. And from there, we'll kind of get into some more toss-up questions, let everybody kind of feed off of one another. It's a full contact sport, so we're going to let them have at it. Then we're going to bring it back for some wrap-up Q&A from the audience, and then get everybody the opportunity to kind of pose some questions to this outstanding panel. So without further ado, if I may, I'd like to jump right into it. So kickoff question, Don. Let's bring Don to the floor. Don, Related has been a consistent powerhouse in the real estate arena for some time now, from high-rise luxury to senior affordable, family affordable. You all have done it all. You all have built out amazing communities. But in all cases, it requires a very strong and healthy workforce to accomplish the net goals. Tell us what you think of the current state of the workforce in the region. And as it relates to diversity and inclusion, what's working and where lies the win-win? Don?
Sure, thank you very much, Kevin. And thank you to Andy and to the Real Estate Center for inviting me to participate in the panel today. I think it is a great opportunity to talk about certainly some of the challenges that plague our industry, and to be able to share thoughts about things that are happening in different parts of our region. But specifically to your question, it goes without saying that our ability to do what we've been able to do in Chicago and certainly across the country is very dependent on having an adequate workforce, a skilled workforce, one that is trained, one that is effective in the work that they do. And, you know, as we look forward here in Chicago to some of the projects that we have on the pipeline, but as we look to other projects that are in the pipeline, you know, there's something that we talk about all the time here in the office, and it's kind of go around the table and ask everybody what keeps you up at night. And I will tell you that from my perspective, one of the things in my construction world that keeps me up at night is to make sure that I have that workforce when this pipeline really starts to roll. So when we talk about a city that has 3 mega projects, possibly 4 mega projects on its way for the future, when you have a number of single buildings, high rises that are in the way, when you have major projects, public projects at O'Hare Airport and other places, and when you have a whole series of other affordable housing initiatives that are going on, I worry about the workforce. We have a graying workforce. We have, you know, this is a strong union town, as I think everybody knows, and we have a workforce in the next 2 to 3 years on trade side that is getting older and is going to retire. We do not necessarily have an adequate pipeline, in my opinion, that has been trained and ready to step into that. And that's really where I think, while we have a challenge to workforce, that's where we have a great opportunity. Because one of the other issues we have is that this is not a very diverse workforce in Chicago in terms of our community and representing the communities of Chicago adequately. And so that to me is opportunity. And it's the reason why we are involved with initiatives that we hope will work. You know, one of my fellow panelist here, Sierra, that is involved as well in the work that she's doing, the work that we're doing. And it's our hope that these collaborative efforts of both private development, public agencies, the general contractors and subcontractors, and labor sitting at the table together, which is unprecedented. It's never happened in Chicago before like that. That through that, we will be able to come up with programs that will start to create that necessary pipeline. Because without it, we can have all the best plans in the world. We can have pro formas that work just wonderfully. We can have beautiful designs. But if we don't have the skilled men and women to do this and to build it, they're just going to be that, pictures on a piece of paper.
Yep, I agree with that. And I think that goes beyond the general theme of diversity and inclusion being looked at solely as charity. As solely as a way to give back per se. You know, this is really a win-win for the industry so long as you can diversify that pool. So let's move on to Sierra. I want to get Sierra involved a little bit. Sierra, Pullman is a well-known development. I believe it's 180 acres. And the amount of collaborative work that's gone into this master plan development is the essence of the double bottom line. There's Sierra. Return on investment while having a high social impact. Development in neighborhoods typically has been categorized as high risk and challenging. Tell us more. What's working at Pullman, and are these success stories transferable?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's working? I think authentic community engagement. You're absolutely right. 180 acres of contiguous vacant land presented a huge opportunity for us as we thought about this large scale development. But we recognize the importance of engaging the community first, as opposed to creating a plan and moving forward. So we actually took a year, 70 community meetings later, a few themes came up. Pullman was once one of the city's largest food deserts. Our residents wanted a grocery store. They needed a grocery store. They left the community for groceries. They also wanted jobs. You had Ryerson Steel here. Thousands of jobs were here. Ryerson Steel closed. Unemployment was high. And so they said over and over, we need jobs. They also wanted to see retail. They wanted affordable housing. And last but not least, they wanted a community center. And so we kind of had our marching orders. We worked with Mid-America and found some really great tenants. We got a lot of no's initially, but we got some tenants to kind of fill those initial voids in the community, and it became progressively easier to attract other retail. We recognized that the buildings were great and it's important, but it was the jobs that were really important, and ensuring that we were, as I mentioned, planning with the community earlier versus planning for the community. We wanted to make sure the community benefited from all that investment. And so we wanted to make sure that the jobs went to the community residents and surrounding states. We wanted to make sure that where there were opportunities to engage small businesses, that they came from the South Side or Chicago or the South suburban areas. And so it was important to us to really be responsive to what the community needs were, and also be respectful. Also partnering with workforce agencies that could place our residents in these job opportunities. And so we have here in Pullman, we've got traditional affordable housing options, but we also have affordable home ownership options, right? We're thinking about creating wealth. We have large scale, huge, big box development, but we also have cute little small retail development that provides the opportunity, as I mentioned before, for our small businesses to test the market with limited risk. We're thinking about large-scale industrial development. We've got an Amazon here that we're going to cut the ribbon on in a couple weeks. We've got a Whole Foods distribution center here. We've got a Method here, which is a green cleansing, sustainable company. We have Gotham Greens, which produces hydroponic leafy greens. Over the last 10 years, we've coordinated investment of about $350 million. That's about 1,500 jobs. There's not one funding source that we use. I joke all the time and say it's lasagna financing. We're layering different tools. We use tax increment financing. We use low-income housing tax credits. We use historic tax credits, new market tax credits. If there's a tax credit or a tool, we're going to figure out a way to kind of put it together, because we recognize that our communities deserve quality investment. But I think it's important to note that it's not just one type of development, right? It's the holistic nature that I think has helped us to be successful. Can it be replicated? Absolutely. I think you have to have a commitment to long-term impact. These neighborhoods didn't become this way overnight, and they're not going to change overnight. I think you have this deep desire to kind of stay in it for the long term. For us, it's been 10 years and we still have more work to do. But I think it absolutely can be done and replicated in other communities.
I'm happy everybody has the opportunity to see Sierra, can grab her contact because she has a lot of jewels, a lot of experience and so forth, and a lot of best practices, hopefully that will, help to transform some of our neighborhoods. And again, for that win-win, as we kind of talk about between, private sector developers wanting to continue to develop and so forth, there's still a great amount of opportunity inside these neighborhoods, so long as it's done in the most appropriate fashion. Let's cross the border from Illinois to Wisconsin. And let's get the one and only Joaquin Toro up to the stage. Joaquin, you're leading a $1 billion plus balance sheet as the CEO of WIDA. And as you're one of the only few minorities nationally that holds that seat. You've been intentional around pushing for advancement, and you created the WIDA Lab as your own in-house think tank. Tell us about the WIDA Lab and how you're leveraging your leadership to influence change around diversity and inclusion.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for crossing the border, representing Wisconsin well. Real quickly here, as I sit by myself in my office, everybody noticed that I want to make sure that I'm modeling the correct behavior. We have seen how this pandemic has ravaged communities of color, and not just that, now we're seeing it cross everywhere. And so I ask respectfully that we continue to pass the message on, is that the masks are a safe way. So to get into this, and I'll say it quickly, housing finance authorities, that is what I am. In Illinois, IDA, and Wisconsin, WIDA. We are powerful. We are powerful because, we work very specifically in the area of economic development, housing. Housing is economic development, affordable housing, single family home ownership, and we do amazing things. What I realized in about a year into this position and being appointed by Governor Evers in Wisconsin is the fact that what I realized is that WIDA, we've been producing the same widgets and having a significant impact in the state of Wisconsin. But if I wanted to heighten that impact, I wanted us to really think about internally about innovation and change. Not easy. I think anybody that's a leader that's watching this today is kind of instilling kind of the thought process of change and innovation is not easy.
Right.
But why don't we create ourselves an internal lab that is specific to internal innovation and brought in some of our amazing people that are some of our data researchers internally. It's great because I charge them as a part of this creation of this lab is I charge them that they have to make sure that innovation doesn't exist only in this lab, that it is infectious amongst the rest of this organization, and it has. The other thing I wanted to mention is the second part of your question. And I want to make sure that when we speak about workforce, that we speak about it equitably. And what I mean about that is that we need a diverse workforce to build and to create, but let us not forget that we also need a workforce that are leaders, that are setting strategy, and that are setting vision. That is important, and that's the reason why I accepted to be on this call today, because I knew that I was going to be speaking to my colleagues that are leaders across real estate in the Midwest and nationally, and I think that is the part that is key for us to kind of change kind of the evolution of how do we have an impact across the nation.
Yep. Awesome. I'm with you on that. I think we're going to dive more into that, the importance of getting leadership that is reflective of the community in the second half of this panel. Let's stay on this side of the border. Let's go up with Lafayette Crump. Lafayette, you come from a family business that where diversity and inclusion is etched into the company's work and mission. Now you sit in a highly influential role as head of economic development for the city of Milwaukee. Prior to your confirmation hearing a few months back, the Common Council spoke to your diversity background as they required you and all other appointees seeking confirmation to share your vision and plans for diversity and inclusion across your department as well as across our community. Share with us what you've seen work, what you look forward to accomplishing in your current role as it relates to diversity and inclusion?
All right. Well, thank you, Kevin. And first of all, I just want to say what an honor and a pleasure it is to be here. I am a product of the ACRE program and excited for these students who are going to be taking it on going forward. And when I get a chance to be on a panel with people like Joaquin and Kevin, who I've respected immensely for years, and getting a chance to connect with Sierra, Andy, and Don, who I'm learning about today, I know I am doing something right when I show up in a place with these fine people. So thank you for having me here. Yeah, absolutely. I think your question about, what have I seen work and what are some of the things that I want to get done? It's a great question following right on the heels of Joaquin's comments. I love what he's done with the WIDA lab, and also the idea that the innovation that happens there has to expand outward from there. And I think of the idea of laboratories quite often. I've been thinking about democracy. I've been thinking about, there's a great project happening in Milwaukee right now called This is Milwaukee. And they're asking people about what does democracy mean to them. And I think one of the great things that we do as a democracy, and surely there are many things that we need to do better in this country, but one thing that we do is we look at what's happening in all of the different states and in different municipalities. And if we're smart, we need to be learning from what is working right elsewhere and then implementing it wherever we are. So I'm excited to see what's going to be coming out of WIDA with respect to that. What works is not a surprise. Intentionality works. Commitment works. Refusing to take no for an answer works. But more than that, what works is, oftentimes you will see a commitment from the top of an organization. You will see a CEO saying, yes, this matters to me. The head of a developer will say, this matters to me. Diversity matters to me. The head of a construction company will say it. A mayor, a governor will say it. But then what are their lieutenants doing? Is there that same commitment at the middle of the organization? Is there that same commitment among the people who get to make the actual buying choices, who get to decide, are we going to put time and resources toward mentoring, toward ensuring that people have an opportunity, toward being certain that if someone makes a mistake, are we writing them off forever, or are we giving them the kind of guidance and opportunity that we would give others? And even more so, are we actually telling people about their mistakes? I find what happens often, I think, with people of color, and I think it happens with women to a degree as well, is that sometimes people are afraid to tell them what they've done wrong and how they can be better. Or for fear of being labeled as discriminatory or what have you. But then people don't get a chance to grow. We are all going to make mistakes. I'm new in my position. I've been here for a little over 2 months now. I'm going to make some mistakes. I hope that the people around me will tell me, here's how you could have handled that better. Because I owe that to the people of Milwaukee to be the best that I can at this position, and the people around me owe it to me and the people in this city to help me be the best that I can be. Trying to tighten this up, because I know you asked us to be as concise as possible. Right. What do I want to accomplish? I want to make sure that I'm bringing that intentionality to everything that we do. When you come into an organization that's been doing its work for a long time, there are things you want to tweak, things you want to change, but there's some things that you keep in place. Our mission at the Department of City Development is to improve the quality of life in Milwaukee by guiding and promoting development that creates jobs, builds wealth, and strengthens the urban environment. Do I want to change that? No, that's exactly what I want to do. But what I want to add to that is implementing that mission and all of our objectives in a manner that increases economic and racial equity in the city, expands opportunity, and lessens things like displacement and gentrification. So we have to be intentional about those things. We can't just expect that they're going to happen by osmosis.
Right. I like that. you know, that's kind of leading into your point about mentoring and so forth. It kind of leads into the toss-up question, but I want to kind of lead it into Joaquin. You know, current events. I'll go ahead and say it because I think we got to be candid, right? This is an opportunity for us to be candid while also being fair. But we're in the space of hopefully trying to learn something and take some best practices back to our respective organizations. So recently, a well-known CEO, and I'll say a Wells Fargo CEO, so you can research it for yourselves, was quoted as saying that the pool of talent of Black folks isn't deep when it comes down to filling you know, high-level, senior-level positions. That rubbed a lot of folks the wrong way. I think that he was probably trying to communicate, you know, his challenge in securing talent, which I understand, but it rubs some folks the wrong way. Joaquin, you have a different story. You come from banking, and your CEO at the time, J Mac, took a much different approach to being inclusive and identifying the problem, but doing something about it. Give me something on that.
Yeah, you know, I would say that CEO of Wells Fargo, the issue is that when he puts a blanket statement out there, there are people that are trying to understand how do they crack this nut and really hire leadership to move the needle. And when you put a blanket statement out there, people then believe it. And so it's very difficult. If the governor of Wisconsin said, I need the role that we need to fill it as a CEO, and I need a CEO, and that was the first requirement, I would have never, ever been considered. And by the way, probably majority of those of color in the state of Wisconsin would not be considered because there aren't many CEOs of color in the state of Wisconsin. So that's an immediate X, cross out the fact that we're out of here. You know, I think the story of my previous job is an interesting one, and I want to be respectful. You had mentioned a name, but I'll be respectful of names of banks and all that, but to tell the story itself, prior to starting with that bank, I had worked really hard at making sure that I engaged the emerging communities in Wisconsin to really understand their needs and how could I be a banker to connect the resources of the bank with these communities. And I knew them at a nuanced level. I am Puerto Rican and Mexican, but I could speak at an expert level about the Hmong community, about the LGBT community, about the African American community, go right down the line, regardless of race, the youth and how banks are engaging with youth. I could speak at an expert level about that, and that was a value. I met with a CEO at a networking event, and he told me, you know, we're a community bank. We're 5 branches, $500 million in assets. We want to come into Milwaukee, but it's not easy. First of all, because we understand Milwaukee is a minority majority city. So we want to make sure we get the right people to help us lead those efforts. And number 2, the feds, they're very serious about our engagement and how we grow in community. And if we don't do it right, it'll impact our ability to grow. Well, we didn't know each other, but I sold him the value proposition that I have these connects. I understand this. I can show you a strategy in which way we can engage with these communities. You have a responsibility to your stockholders, and so that we are doing it responsibly, but we got to make some money. We got to pay on the dividends. And I can show you how we can do both. We can be successful at having impact in community. We can show the feds that we care and we're doing this the right way. And at the same time, we can grow. In 3 years, we went from 5 branches, $500 million assets, to nearly 22 branches and nearly $3 billion in assets. And it was amazing the way that we did that. It was, and by the time when I left, the CEO had said something. He doesn't mince words, and I appreciate him for this. He said, you had a good amount to do with that. And I'll tell you one thing, we both trusted each other. The gentleman gave me trust, but he guided me. He gave me counsel. He gave me advice, but he gave me trust. I took that trust like it was a bar of gold, and I went crazy. I wore the name of the bank on my badge, and I created value, everlasting value, by the way. If you cannot provide to the feds that you have a genuine responsibility to the Community Reinvestment Act, you do not grow. By the way, it's not just the feds. There are community advocacy groups that will be immediately put in response to say, I don't trust this bank. I don't trust this entity. Why are they growing in our community? Yep. And they stop at growth.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
There's a personal story here to all of our CEOs and leaders that don't know how. Well, the question is, look a little bit deeper than maybe just the title, or maybe the degree. By the way, I respect degrees. I respect the experience. I don't have a master's degree. I do have a degree, an undergraduate degree, but my degree in understanding these communities and showing that I can quantify it and create value, that in itself, boy, you can't pay for that. And so that in itself, it's a beautiful synchronous relationship that had worked. And guess where it's put me now? I will absolutely give credit to this gentleman in helping me be in this position. And I will tell you something, there's always, I'll end on this because I think this is important. There's always a concern that if I work with this person, if I help build them and grow them, that they eventually may become competition. I will never be competition to this gentleman. I promise you that if I create something, if I lead something, that we will work together, even if it's another bank, I will work with this gentleman because my honor and my respect is deep for him. Yep.
That's the consistent theme, you know, the win-win. I mean, you've expressed that. I think that is great feedback. So panelists, I'm gonna toss in another topic, and I want you guys to dive in. You all to dive in. There's a common theme that says, "What you do for me that does not include me, you do to me." Right? So what you do for me that doesn't include me, you do to me. And that's a lot of what these communities think when folks come in and they're not inclusive, they're not intentional, they're not engaging. They just come in and have their way. That topic, the original topic of, you know, where do we, the importance of leadership being involved with decision making. Give me something. Don, Sierra, or Lafayette, the floor is yours. I don't want to call somebody out, but I will. Don, you up, Don. Let's go.
I'll take that. You know, I agree with what you just said, Kevin, and I will tell you that as we have from Related Midwest tried to be a strong voice for trying to break down some of the hurdles and the barriers that have been around in Chicago for a long time, and you know, in our not just the trades, but in our broader industry. I have on a number of occasions, as recently as yesterday, had that very thing said to me. And I'm a guy who has been in the community a lot. I'm a guy who knows a whole lot of people. But the fact of the matter is that with all that we have tried to do, with all the things we are doing, we have made mistakes along the way. And it goes to that very point of being, while we're trying to be inclusive, actually being exclusive with regard to, you're saying to me that you know what we need in the community, you know what we're looking for, and then you're saying to me, oh, and you also have the solutions to that. But guess what? You missed it. You don't have any of it. And I have to say that that those have been great lessons for me, and they continue to be great lessons for me, because the difference in perspective has really allowed us to be stronger and to be better. And I think it has led to something that Sierra said earlier. You know, it's really, really important that what we do and how we do it is authentic. It has to be authentic. And if anyone would go to our website or wherever you might find it, and we set these guiding principles for our mega project at the 78th, there's 10 guiding principles that led to our master plan and what we wanted to achieve. One of those is authenticity, that we have to be authentic. But, you know, authenticity and how people see that has to be earned. You just can't say I'm going to be authentic. They have to know that you're authentic. And so I think we have, you know, and I take this on me as a leader, you know, of Related Midwest here in Chicago. I take that upon me as something that we haven't done as well as we could. That being said, we cannot stop trying to use the voice that we have to engage and try to be better. Because if we just sat at the sideline and said, well, we're never going to change it, and I guess I'll never understand, and no matter what I do, somebody's saying I'm not doing enough or I'm doing it wrong. No, we're not learning if we don't do that, right?
Yep.
But the fact of the matter is we have to collaborate. And one of the things that I think is happening here in Chicago within the industry, and it has a much longer way to go, and we still need to get more people engaged. So
Right.
whoever is out there on this right now, I probably a number of you I would know if I could see you. You need to engage. If you are not engaged, you need to engage. We are a industry. We talk about wanting to develop, whether it's commercial development, whether it's residential development, whatever it may be. We hold in our hands the ability to change cities. That's what development is, right? We go into neighborhoods, we go into cities. So then let's change it. Let's change it. Let's involve everybody. Let's bring generational wealth back into the communities in Chicago on the south and west side by supporting and facilitating the growth of new businesses so that those new businesses can hire workforce that comes from the community. That makes us a better place. That's the win-win. That is the win-win. The money is going to be spent anyway, right? So let's leverage the expenditure of the money. And yes, so I can leave my other panelists to say something.
Good points. We got about 5 minutes left, folks. I'm gonna stay on topic. I want to stay on topic.
Can I jump in here, Kevin? I just want to tell you first of all.
I think you got ladies first. I got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sierra.
I'm so sorry. You're one of my favorite people. You know that.
I was just going to piggyback off what Don said. That intentionality means a lot. You know, engagement is never easy when it's authentic, right? It's time consuming. You're not checking a box. You're not doing a quick community meeting and keeping it cute and prep for city council. It really means listening. And I take it a step further. It's not just listening. It's allowing the community to have the agency that they deserve to have. It's allowing the community to make decisions that may be different from what you think is best for this community. It takes time. It gets messy. And it's not always easy, but it's necessary. And in terms of kind of building that trust, I think when you do it well, you do it right, and you do it consistently, you build that trust within the community. Another piece that I'll add, and I really appreciated what Don just said about the spend. One thing that we really value is where those dollars are spent. The city has their standard MBE, WBE participation goal. What's critical for us is to make sure that our construction workforce really reflects our community. So we take pride on the city's MBE, WBE requirement as the floor, not our ceiling. On average, we hit about 50% minority participation across all of our projects. The workforce participation is around there also. It's important that the community see themselves on those construction sites, in those buildings, working permanently, right? Both on the permanent workforce side and the temporary workforce side. And I'll take it a step further. Something that we've been really thinking about are professional service firms. We don't talk about that a lot. We talk about who's breaking ground, who's kind of, using the tools on site. But what about the attorneys? What about the accountants when we talk about these very complex finance deals? We can push them to do better. We can make sure that we have minority participation there too. I firmly believe you can't be what you can't see. It's a saying that's been around for a very long time, but if you're in a position of power, a position of leadership, and you can use your voice to say, hey, I know we've always worked with this firm, but there are some other amazing firms that we need to engage that do great work, and it reflects our community. And I think just using your voice to kind of say that and understand it's not going to always be comfortable, it won't be easy, but it's necessary to really affect change.
It's very important how you show up. Let's go with Lafayette. Last but not least.
Yeah, I think Deanna and Sierra have made some excellent points, and I want to allow that time for Q&A. I just want to say I will be using that that phrase going forward. So I'm just letting you know, Kevin, what you do for me that does not include me, you do to me. I'm thinking about art projects that people think about doing in the city of Milwaukee that purport to be about Black people but don't include Black people. I'm thinking about community developments that people want to plop into a community saying how great it's going to be, but don't engage the community enough to get started. And it's crucial. And as Sierra said, the one thing I'll push back on a little bit, Sierra said, real authentic engagement is not easy, but I'll say it's all about how you think about it. If you think that's a hard thing to have to listen to others, it's definitely not easy. But if you truly engage people and you're open to it, it doesn't have to be as hard as people make it out to be.
Yep, totally agree. That is really, really good. I think that this has like obviously been an incredible discussion, and we can go on for another session or two, and maybe there'll be some encore to this that Andy may want to put together. But I think that has really brought to head a few different topics. Right before we go into Q&A, what I gathered was engagement is critical on multiple sides of the equation for success. Internal, external, C-suite, middle management, and other. The win-win. This is not charity work. This is not you come in and you say, I want to help out, the minority community, and then, I feel good about myself. No, this is a win-win situation where you benefit from the opportunity to engage authentically with these folks that translates to financial wins or any other objectives that your company may have or organization. Mentoring and taking risks. I am so fortunate to have people that have taken an exorbitant amount of risk with me. They'll probably tell you I hit out the ballpark. They gave me the alley-oop and I came in and I did what I had to do. But I am more than grateful for them taking that risk with me because there is no such thing as a polished or finished product. You have to kind of, in this industry for sure, there is a requirement that you have the ability to be agile and nimble enough to figure this stuff out as you go. So I'm extremely thrilled about all of that. That discussion was great. Andy, do we have any Q&A questions that's come up? If not, let's see what we got. I think I'm looking at them now. It says, Sierra, I know that at least a portion of the Pullman development is a designated opportunity zone. Has that helped? And what is your opinion of opportunity zones in general?
Yeah, it has helped. We are the 180-acre site that you referred to is in an opportunity zone. And we did our first opportunity zone about a year ago, 400,000 square foot spec industrial building that was recently named. Instead of it being 3 small users, SC Johnson has taken the entire building and actually doubling down here. And so SC Johnson bought Method a few years back. They have 1 space here. And the fact that they doubled down and chose to be here, and they're going to create more jobs for residents on 60628 zip and the surrounding zips is huge for us. It's a $35 million project, all equity, no debt. And so is the opportunity zone doing what it's supposed to do in this case? Absolutely. I mentioned earlier that lasagna financing is really kind of our secret sauce. We don't just rely on opportunity zones. We're using just about all the different finance tools that are available to us to really be successful. I think the holistic nature to our development really yields itself to us to be creative with tapping different finance tools. So I think to answer your question in short, yes, I'm a believer in opportunity zones, but I believe that you have to have diverse finance options in place as well.
Yep. Joaquin, you've been quiet for put the muzzle on you, I guess, for the past few minutes. You want to tap on that?
Yeah, what I would say is in Wisconsin, we have seen some projects that have been supported by opportunity zones. However, not as many as one would expect. And there's always the conversation about, who's leading the development and where they're putting it, right? That's always going to be the question. It's interesting because even in, there's been, I think when the opportunity zones were first announced, there were a lot of conversations in rural communities around how opportunity zones can really spark opportunity. However, investment is not as excited to go into rural communities. So there's really kind of this changing narrative around how do we find localized wealth that really would believe in that rural development and believe that there's an opportunity to invest in that area. I haven't seen that explosion, but I know that there's still kind of this, I guess, this anticipation that it will hit a point of excitement and more investment.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Another question we have, and I'll try to answer a little bit myself. It says, how does an aspiring developer get connected? I've been a real estate investor and landlord for 20 years, and now I'd like to expand and need guidance. I'm always going to put a plug in for the ACRE program. Extreme level of excitement about this upcoming class and cohort, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do. I would preference that by saying check into the ACRE program for next year. Sierra has a beautiful story about how she got into development from banking. So an email to her may be helpful as well. This is coming from Adrian Hunter, FYI. Another question, folks. Toss up. Are we looking at the community colleges to build our diverse workforce for these developments? They have skilled apprentices in need of jobs. MATC in Milwaukee, in particular, has their Job Connect. I'm gonna repeat that, or you guys got it? I'll answer it then. In short, MATC has amazing leadership, but they can't do it. They can't do it by themselves. I mean, Vicky is an outstanding leader, but it's going to require us to be intentional, as everybody on the panel has already discussed. It's going to be an all hands on deck effort. I think Lafayette is going to be in a tremendous force. Somebody in that space that's going to be ready to carry the baton from the last leader and take it to new heights. So we're extremely, extremely excited about that here in Milwaukee, about having this ecosystem that's very comprehensive, that's very talented, that's very diverse, and you guys are folks that's ready to go. And I'm assuming that that's the same thing, hopefully, in Chicago.
Absolutely. If I could just chime in, I'd say
Yeah.
that in addition to the community colleges, I think we're thinking about the high schools. Exposure is key. The sooner that we provide exposure, the better in terms of long-term opportunities. And so we're leaning on the community colleges, but we're also thinking about those high schools and providing opportunities, internships early. There's never too early to expose youth to different career fields. And I think being intentional and doing it early and engaging often is the key to success.
And if I could just say something with that as well, because I agree. We actually at Hire 360, it's 4 pillars that we stand on. It's workforce, it's business support and assistance, it's supply chain engagement, and the 4th component, which may be very much the most important for the pipeline for the future, is youth engagement. That youth engagement has to go really into the middle schools. We have got to start to get people acclimated to this industry and the chance for sustainable careers. And that starts to cross the lines of not just building trades, but also the professional services. What's it like to be an architect? What's it like to be an engineer? What's it like to go into marketing if you're creative? All of those pieces touch our industry, but we're not telling that story early enough. And when we talk about, you know, we talked earlier about the CEO of Wells and talking about that pool of folks to be able to call on. Well, you know, we can start that. We can start to create that pool right now in the middle school. And so it's a really, really important component to Hire 360. And then it leads to not only an excitement for this particular industry, but also wanting to get into the apprenticeships, preparing properly to be able to get in there and to understand. And here's the other important point, to understand what it means to go into a specific building trade. Is that really something somebody wants to do, or is it just that they need and want a job? Well, maybe we can help to make that job go somewhere else that what they really want to do. This is about sustainable careers. This is what it has to be about. It can no longer be, and somebody earlier talked about the check the box, and we're not the check the box company either, and we don't let our subcontractors or contractors do it either. But the fact is, if we continue to allow for workforce to be hired for one job only, and then at the end of that job, women and minorities are, well, no more jobs, and oh, I don't have anything on the next job. We will never get to a point where we bring that true wealth and generational wealth to people of color and our community here in Chicago. So I think education at the youth level is critically important to this ecosystem.
Awesome. Well, folks, we got like 3 minutes to go. I want to recognize Mike Riopel, who had a question about transportation and how that plays into the overall ecosystem that we could not get to as a next up question. I also want to highlight the fact that, Sierra, you got an extreme level of a high level of comment, compliment around the term layered lasagna financing. So that was really good. I think that is something that will stick with folks. So I'm going to lend the floor back to Andy. Andy has a wrap up video that he's going to bring on, and I want to first end this with, you know, you guys did an outstanding job as panelists. I hope the audience had the opportunity to take something from it. I know I did. Maybe there'll be some encore to this. Maybe there'll be some offline discussions, whatever the case may be. But we want to thank you all for your time and commitment and your expertise. Thank you. Andy?
Thank you so much, Kevin, and thank you to all of our incredible panelists. What a wonderful discussion that we had today. A few short comments as we finish up today. One last big thank you to our platinum sponsors, Associated Bank, CBRE, and Prologis. We sincerely thank your support for allowing today to be possible. So thank you so much to all of you. And then last, but certainly not least, as promised, we want to highlight our part 3 of our conference, which is coming up on November 5th, and announce both our award winners and the panelists for that day. All right. Well, I'm very, very pleased to announce, and I'll be able to show I'll be able to show a different version here of our PowerPoint. But a big thank you to our award winners. Our Deal of the Year award winner is going to Georgetown Crossing, which is a deal from Prologis, the first industrial multi-story building in the nation, led by Dan Letter of Prologis. And our Service to Marquette Real Estate Award will be going to Bill Scheel, a 1972 alum of Marquette University and an incredible supporter of our program. Our video will be available on our social media channels and on our website, so you'll be able to see the other panelists. We'll make that announcement through an additional email following today's event. So once again, and finally, thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you to our sponsors, to our speakers, to our moderator, Kevin Newell, and we look forward to seeing everybody next month. Take care, everyone.